Hello, this is Jimmy Keegan from Spock's Beard, and you're watching Moro.com. He's been a friend of the band's for many, many years. Dave and John used to work together at a music store in California. But they've been friends. I mean, back when Neil was in the band as well, they were very good friends, and they've always known him to be an accomplished writer and things of that nature. So when Neil left, it kind of left a gap in terms of composition. All the band members are, it's obviously they're skilled at writing, but he just presented songs to them, and the guys kind of went, yeah, okay, great. It was the idea of, any good idea is a good idea. You don't question the source. Exactly. And because he was such a good friend, they just thought, okay, that would be great. And Dave and John had written together as well, just for fun. So it wasn't like it was this foreign, concept coming to the band. It was just, it fit easily. It was as soon as Neil decided to leave, suddenly it was like, okay, we'll just do this. So it made a lot of sense to them as a band. And same with Stan. Stan had written a lot with Nick and with Al, and so again, a longtime friend, and they had always written material together for fun, and or for other projects. So same thing. They just had songs, and they decided to, instead of writing those songs for other projects, they went, okay, well, let's just direct it this way. From what I understand, it was they had written a lot of material for his solo album, and I think some of the idea was carried over from that. But when I could be wrong on this, but my understanding is that it was written for this. But it was something that Alan had written and presented it to his brother and Neil, as well as the other gentleman who I don't know the other guy's name. I've only met him briefly, but they wrote the tune, and Neil just kind of had some last-minute touches and some little cleanup ideas. So they gave him writing credit, but it was really just kind of a, maybe you should do this in this section. Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. So he didn't really write the whole song, just that. He was sort of an afterthought, but still, still significant enough of a contribution to give him a writing credit.
Yeah, we can recognize the style.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the one thing that I think people forget is, the fact that Neil left the band. They're still brothers. They still love each other. And he's a great guy. I mean, I've met him several times now, and he's a fantastic guy and, remarkably talented, as, everyone already knows. But, they're still going to spend time together as family, and they're still going to, have creative ideas, and, they'll inevitably write things together and come up with things, and they'll do things together. And so... yeah, I mean, it shouldn't be such a surprise to see him still somehow affiliated with the band, just because, you spend that much time with someone, and his reasons for leaving the band were not negative. They were something where, as much as the guys didn't want him to leave, it was something that was very passionate for him, so they supported him, and then they still see him and love him, and They are basically, they are technically the producers of the album. In the same vein as Marillion and a few other acts, the band, for various reasons, decided to not go back with their record company. And I guess John Baygold suggested the idea, but we had all suggested various ideas of how to produce the album. And because it had worked so well for Marillion, they decided to go with the same concept of seeking out their fans and sort of doing it backwards, and ask, you can buy certain packages pre-sale under the idea that you've been a fan with us this long, hopefully you trust, well, I can say us because I'm actually on this record, so trust us to produce an album that will be to your liking. And if not, then just wait for the album to come out. So it was one of those things where they decided to test it and see what kind of response they got, and the response was overwhelming. So they were overjoyed, and you can tell because the album is... I mean, the previous albums have been fantastic. This album, from my opinion, is the best they've ever done. There had been a lot of Inside Out had gone back and forth, from what I understand, with being sold. Initially, it was a bit more of an intimate company, and then when it got sold, you started to get a lot more. It started to feel a bit more like a big record company, and so they were finding it more difficult to get correct support, and they just became another band. And they'd spent a lot of time, and they'd had a good relationship with him, but it felt like initially Spock's Beard was an internet band. They did it on their own to start with, and so when Inside Out became more of just a
record company.
Yeah, this became a record company, and it was more just. It felt like they were just giving their money to somebody else. The amount of money that they were giving them as up front was so small, and it's not a blame. I mean, I'm not signed to them. I'm not obligated to be with them. Yeah, it just became more of politics than. And then they're a fine company. They didn't do it as if they were bad people, that they'd done anything wrong. It just felt like it was time to either find a new company or to go on your own, and they decided to go on their own, and it was very successful that way. Not nearly enough. I laugh whenever they call me for the rehearsal schedule because I expect 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and it's 2-3 days. And I'm still working. I've just taken a new job in Vegas. So I have a regular position there. So I had to. We rehearsed 4 days total, but of that, I flew out Tuesday night. Wednesday morning, I picked up my drums. Got to the rehearsal venue, rehearsal location. We set up, which takes about 2 hours.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We rehearsed for about 3 hours. Then I had to fly back to Las Vegas. And that basically went on for the next 4 days. We would rehearse during the day, and then I'd fly back out. Mm-hmm. So total time was about 2.5 days for rehearsal. My solo career, I've never really been a solo artist, but as a drummer, I'm back in Las Vegas, working with a couple of projects there. One of them will be we're producing a show that will hopefully go on the Boulevard. It's kind of a comedy, music, the whole bit. Other than that, I'm doing some sessions. Ryan Stolt calls every once in a while to do little projects, which is nice. I did the first Agents of Mercy. That's what he calls it, right? And then Nick ended up playing with it all in the States. So I did the record, and then Nick did all the live shows. So it was a little backwards.
Yeah.
I'm doing a few other prog records. I'm producing an artist, Steve Benino, and that album should be due out at the end of the year, which is, it's not very prog, but it's very creative. We don't have a label over our shoulder going, it has to be this way, so he writes the songs, does most of the playing. I play the drums, some of the keyboards, some of the singing, and then I've produced it, and now I'm mixing it. We've got a couple more songs to do, and I'm very excited about that. It's a great, great record. And that, hopefully Nick's going to get a break here soon, and we'll do a little more touring.
Weary, I was walking, a disassembled man. I wandered through